guys, welcome to the studio. My name is Reagan. Super excited to be back, and I have a special guest with me, Miss Nicole Stewart. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just jump on in. We first need to talk about your move to Texas, okay? She moved here in June, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about it. Where are you from? When did you move here? How all that went.
Okay, so I'm originally from Alabama. That's why I have such a thick accent.
I love it.
But we did move from Alabama, but we have not spent like our whole time there. We did live in New Orleans for seminary. That's where me and my husband met. And then we moved to Mississippi and then Alabama and then now here in Texas. Our transition has been great. Our little girl loves our school. We love our church, obviously Sugar Creek. So everything has gone really good.
That's so good. What's the biggest difference between, I almost said Tennessee, Alabama and Texas? What do you think? A lot of still Southern hospitality.
Yeah, there's a lot of Southern hospitality. There's, I would say probably at least in the area where we were from, there's definitely like more diversity in our current area. And I love that. I mean, that was somewhat purposeful. We had our little girl in a pretty diverse school, but our town wasn't.
Yeah. How about the driving? Is it different?
It is a little bit, but I mean, I guess in Birmingham you have to drive on the interstate some, but yes, the lane, there's way more lanes and way more
That's
bridges.
what so many people tell me when they come to Texas. There's like 6 lanes just across one side.
Yeah, yeah, and the big old bridges that go really high.
Yeah, sometimes they freak me out.
Yeah.
And I just kind of squeeze my wheel really hard on that part.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so Nicole moved here with her family, and she is actually a counselor. So today we're going to be talking about mental health, anxiety, depression, stress, because that is absolutely something that I've struggled with, that I think so many people who are watching will really benefit from this conversation. So I just kind of want to ask you, like, how did you get into counseling? Was it something that you were super interested in college, or did it change over time, or how was that?
Yeah, so I knew that I always wanted to do something to help others, but I didn't know exactly what that looked like. So I went to college at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide.
I was waiting for her to say that.
But so big Bama fan. But I went there and actually got my bachelor's in, it seems somewhat unrelated, but ended up being able to use the knowledge from early childhood development. And then I got a minor in social welfare. Then I went on and moved to New Orleans at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary for a master's degree, but it actually also wasn't in counseling. So then I went to the University of Southern Miss and got a master's in social work. And just kind of throughout, the Lord definitely called me to be a social worker. It was just so obvious, and his hand was in it all, like providing tuition and the way all the way that things fell. But then once I became a social worker and worked on my clinical license, I knew that, this was something I wanted to do and where I wanted to be.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So one thing that I can think of, specifically thinking with student ministry, one thing that I get all the time and get asked about is dealing with anxiety and depression. Is this something that you have dealt with in the past?
Personally?
Yes.
Yes. So I am a highly anxious person. I actually have ADHD as well, which a lot of times they are comorbidities. Which means that they are two different.
Definition on that.
Two different diagnoses that, like, a lot of times go hand in hand or together. So, like, a lot of times if you have ADHD, you're likely to have anxiety. Of course, a lot of times you can have anxiety without the ADHD, but. So yes, I have personally struggled with anxiety and had to do my own therapy, like not to myself, but have a therapist. And then also, and then also, just seek the Lord and seek community.
What would you say are some tools or how do you help others manage anxiety and depression?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy tools that are actually end up being very useful, such as like reframing your thoughts. So one of like the Christian verses from that I think about is like the 2 Corinthians 10:5, where it talks about taking every thought captive. And when we do that and then we reframe that thought, and it helps. So like one of my favorite tools that I use is we talk about the worst case scenario, best case scenario, likely scenario. And then is it going to matter in 1 week, 1 month, and 1 year?
Ooh, that's
So
good.
like for an example, if your boyfriend isn't answering his phone and you feel like he's cheating on you and you just start spiraling or something, really the worst case scenario is that he could be cheating on you. The best case scenario is that he is probably best case scenario is he might be buying you flowers, and then the likely scenario he's like asleep or playing video games or doing something else, right? So it's most likely the likely scenario, but then if the worst case scenario were to happen, if he was to be cheating on you, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And it probably would matter in a week. It might matter in a month, but it's not gonna matter in a year. You're going to have recovered and healed from that. So
I like that. Best scenario, worst scenario, and likely scenario. That's a really good thing. I really love that.
Yeah.
I heard you mention 2 Corinthians 10. What are some, I don't know if you want to like pull out a scripture, or if there's a certain scripture that you want to read. What are some of the scriptures that you typically lead other people to? Because I have like a few in the back of my mind that when I was going through my anxiety really bad in my spirals, there's a few verses that I clung to, like James 4:7, submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Like that was one scripture that always stood out to me. Or recently, and Peter talking about like casting our anxieties on him because he cares for us. Like it's not just because we're supposed to just give our anxiety to him, but ultimately because Jesus truly cares about us and he wants that. So what are some scriptures that you lead people to or that have stood out to you through dealing with your anxiety?
Yeah. So if I have Christian clients, of course, if I don't, I have to be cautious about the faith. But if I have Christian clients and we can incorporate faith into their therapy, then I do talk about the 2 Corinthians 10:5. One of my favorite verses of all time is like the Philippians 4:6-10, which is like, do not worry about anything, but in everything in Thanksgiving, like make your request known to God.
Yeah.
He will give you peace that surpasses all understanding. And that verse is, I think, just so important because when we sit with it and we're able to just give it to the Lord, like, of course, we might still be anxious. Of course, we might still have troubles. But if we are able to surrender that to the Lord, then he gives us that peace that surpasses understanding, which is amazing. I also think of like the verses it's like Matthew 6, Luke 10, like those verses about like the lilies and the birds and how the Lord takes care of them. And he tells us to not fret about tomorrow, but like just stay in today. And I have seen how that is so important in my life. Like, be in today, cherish this moment. If you're fretting about tomorrow, then you're not here in this moment. And so that's another, he's always going to provide for us.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's something that we all easily forget, like myself speaking, because it's like I'm so focused on what's happening tomorrow or next week or my schedule, but like I'm not being present. I'm like, the Lord takes care of literally the lilies and the birds. Like, well, it makes me think he won't take care of me. Yeah. So I love that scripture too. That's so good.
Yeah.
So there was a time in my life where I felt completely hopeless. Like I did not even understand like how in the world could there be such a personal God who would come and rescue me and see me in the middle of my anxiety and my depression. So I just kind of want to ask you, like, what would you say to the person right now who feels absolutely hopeless, like in the middle of their anxiety and depression?
Yeah, I would definitely say to them that that God is with you, even if you feel like you don't feel him, he is there. And he can handle our anger. He can handle our depression. He can handle our anxiety. He's big enough to do that. And so we can cast those cares on him and trust him with those. And when we're feeling so hopeless, I just say try your best to get with the Lord. And I know that it's hard when you're down in the dumps, it's hard to pick up the Bible. It's hard to pray, but maybe pull out a journal if that's easier, or but get with the Lord, and then also get with your community, get with your church, tell people what is going on with you, and let them love you, let them pray for you, let them be there for you during that time.
It's so much worse going through it just by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's only to yourself, things seem so much more worse and so much elevated. And that's why it's literally so important, speaking things out, not letting the enemy have a hold on your mind. You're talking about keeping those thoughts captive. It's so important. That's so good. So I know you talked a little bit about some of this best and worst case English, por favor. I know you talked about some of this best and worst case scenario tools that we can walk out with. So I just want to ask you, is there any more practical tools that you would give someone? I know one thing that has stood out to me is box breathing. Is that something that you talk about with your clients?
Yeah. Box breathing, or one of my favorite techniques is the grounding. And that is more when you're in a very, very heightened anxiety moment, like a panic attack or something like that, where you have to ground yourself. And that's looking, it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique or whatever, but 5 things that you see around you. 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can smell, all of that, and smell, taste, all of your senses, engaging them so that you can be there in the moment and bring yourself kind of back down to reality. And the other thing is with the thoughts, that's just a lot of it. It's so much in our thoughts, and we let our thoughts spiral. And so recognizing that our thoughts are irrational, and so that tool that I gave you earlier, it does help change that irrational thought to rational. And that's just one of the ways. But our thoughts are irrational when we're there. And so we do have to work on capturing it and reframing it and changing it to a more rational thought.
That's really good. That's super awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for being on the podcast and taking your time out to be with us. I hope that you guys took something out of this podcast. I absolutely love these tools that we walked with, and I'm going to be talking about them more. So we really appreciate you tuning in and watching, and we hope to see you in our next episode next week. Bye, guys.